The Christmas lights twinkled softly across my parents' dining room, reflecting off the polished silverware and the perfectly set table. It was supposed to be a cozy family evening, the kind we'd had every December for as long as I could remember. But I could feel it before anyone even arrived, that underlying tension that always accompanied these gatherings. My sister, Vanessa, was already in full performance mode. She held court near the appetizers, narrating every detail of her new 2-bedroom apartment, the choice of kitchen tiles, the building's recycling program, the exact angle sunlight hit the living room at noon. My parents listened raptly, as though she had just uncovered some national treasure. Meanwhile, I sat quietly, picking at my roasted Brussels sprouts, nodding politely when necessary, effectively fading into the background. And then, like a pivot in the narrative, Aunt Linda arrived. Arms full of presents, her signature raspberry tart in hand, she strode in with the confidence of someone who lived a life of her own making. Aunt Linda wasn't just another relative. She was a commercial property investor with buildings scattered across the city, a woman who understood money, strategy, and the world I had been quietly navigating for years. "Sorry I'm late, everyone," she said, settling into the chair beside me and giving me a hug that felt like an acknowledgement of something the rest of my family had never quite noticed. Client emergency. A pipe burst in one of my retail spaces. But I wouldn't miss Christmas with my favorite niece. "So, tell me, how's that $680,000 property you bought back in 2012? Still generating rental income like we projected?" The room froze. Vanessa's fork hovered mid-air. Dad's wine glass froze mid-sip. Mom's face drained of color. "Linda, what property?" my father whispered, voice tight with disbelief. I sipped my wine deliberately, letting the silence stretch, letting the truth land. 12 years. 12 years of being overlooked, dismissed, and subtly pushed aside while Vanessa's life was celebrated in excruciating detail. And now, finally, someone outside my parents' bubble had brought the spotlight where it should have been all along. "Oh, the house on Oakmont Drive," Aunt Linda said casually, reaching for the dinner rolls. "The Victorian Sarah bought in 2012. Beautiful bones. She did incredible work renovating it." Vanessa's voice cut through, sharp and incredulous. "Sarah doesn't own a house. She rents that place above the coffee shop. I rented it for a couple of years after grad school," I said calmly. "Then I bought the Oakmont property. 12 years ago." My father slammed his wine glass onto the table as though the sound could erase my words. "What are you saying?" he asked, disbelief echoing in every syllable. "I'm saying the 5-bedroom Victorian I purchased for $680,000 back in November 2012, I said evenly. "The house I've been living in, renovating and managing all this time. I bought it myself with my own money, and I've made it my own over the last decade." The silence that followed was thick, almost tactile. My mother's hand flew to her throat. Her eyes were wide with shock. Where did you get the money?" she whispered. "From working," I replied simply. "I've been a senior architect at Henderson & Associates for 15 years. And yes, I make a very comfortable living." Aunt Linda nodded approvingly. "Sarah's being modest. She made partner last year. Annual compensation closer to $280,000 including profit sharing." The word partner landed in the room like a physical object. Felt alien, almost impossible. Vanessa's voice was strangled, disbelief tangled with envy. You're a partner at Henderson?" "Yes," I said. "I lead the residential design division. 23 architects report to me. We handle award-winning projects. The Victorian is just one of them." Even as I spoke, the truth began to settle over the table like a thick fog. My parents were silent, frozen, unable to reconcile the daughter they had dismissed for over a decade with the woman sitting before them. Vanessa's face shifted from shock to something darker, resentment. Linda flipped open her phone and started scrolling. "Actually," she said lightly, "I have the messages Sarah sent me about it. All documented. December 2012, she told her parents about the house. March 2013, she invited them to the housewarming. They were busy celebrating Vanessa's graduation from dental school. 11 years of invitations ignored." Vanessa's face burned red. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No words could bridge the gap between years of overlooked achievements and the family's blindness. I leaned back, calm and steady. For 12 years I've been trying to share my life. You weren't listening. You were too busy celebrating Vanessa's every mundane update to notice that I had built a life, my own home, a successful career, investments, and recognition in my field. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Dad looked pale and defeated. And through it all, Aunt Linda just watched, her expression approving, unwavering. The first wave of tension had hit. The family Christmas dinner, a scene of predictable chatter and ritual, had suddenly become a reckoning. And in that quiet, suspended moment I realized, for the first time in over a decade, I had their undivided attention. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Comment below what you would have done if your family ignored your achievements for years. And if you're enjoying this story, give it a like, it really helps the channel. The room was thick with disbelief, like the air itself had been poisoned with 12 years of overlooked milestones. Vanessa's chair scraped against the floor as she abruptly stood, voice sharp and incredulous. So you've just been what? Secretly successful this whole time? She demanded, eyes narrowing. I wasn't keeping it a secret, I said evenly. I tried to share it. You weren't listening. Vanessa flinched as if I'd struck her, her face a mix of anger and confusion. That's not true. Mom, Dad, you didn't see anything she did. You never celebrated her. You ignored her. How is that fair? It is fair, Aunt Linda interjected, her tone calm but cutting. Sarah asked a simple question about her property. The fact that you didn't notice or care isn't her fault. It's yours. My mother's lips trembled, her eyes brimming with tears. We thought she didn't want to share her life. I shook my head slowly, letting the weight of 12 years settle between us. No. I shared. I invited, I sent messages, I tried to show you what I was building. Every single time, you redirected the conversation to Vanessa's life. Every success I had, you dismissed. Every accomplishment ignored. I wasn't invisible because I wanted to be. I was invisible because you made me invisible. Vanessa's breath hitched, the color draining from her face. So, all this time you've been a partner at Henderson? You lead a team of 23 architects? You're Victorian. All the renovations. Every single award. Yes, I said, my voice quiet but firm. 14 design awards. Architectural Digest coverage. A net worth exceeding $1.8 million, including investments, real estate, and retirement accounts. Every brick, every design choice, every late night at the office, built by me. The room shifted. My father looked stricken, running a hand through his hair. My mother's sobs grew louder, and Vanessa's face oscillated between envy, disbelief, and helplessness. Linda pulled out her phone, scrolling through the evidence. She documented everything, she said pointedly. Invitations, emails, photos. Every time Sarah tried to involve you, you turned away. For 12 years. Vanessa's voice broke as she tried to defend herself. You never told us everything. How were we supposed to know? I told you, I said, voice harder now. Every conversation about my life got dismissed. Every achievement minimized. Every milestone you ignored. I tried to share and you chose not to notice. That's on you. The betrayal in her expression was palpable, the anger mingling with a dawning realization. The sister they had considered ordinary, almost forgettable, had quietly built a life they could hardly comprehend. You're just rubbing it in our faces, Vanessa accused, her voice trembling. No, I said, calm but unyielding. I asked a question about my investment property. You were blind to everything else I've done. That's not me rubbing it in, that's you finally seeing reality. My mother's hands clutched at her chest, her voice cracking. I didn't realize. We didn't understand. I don't need your understanding, I said softly, each word deliberate. I've built everything without it. My house, my career, my financial security, I achieved all of it while being invisible to you. And the hardest part? Realizing that your recognition was never going to come, unless I forced it into the light. Linda placed a steadying hand on my shoulder. Sarah, I think we've made our point here. You don't owe them an apology. You don't owe them validation. You've done everything right. Your life speaks for itself. Vanessa sank into her chair, drained, her fury muted by the truth she had been blind to for so long. My parents avoided my gaze, forced to confront the magnitude of what they had ignored. The room felt like it had shifted on its axis. What was supposed to be a cheerful Christmas dinner had transformed into a confrontation of years of neglect, unacknowledged achievements, and painfully uneven attention. For the first time, the power in the room had shifted. The daughter they overlooked was now standing tall, her success undeniable, her achievements indisputable, her independence absolute. And in that charged silence I realized something. The family dynamic that had suppressed me for 12 years could no longer hold. The tables had turned. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Comment below what you would have done if your family ignored your achievements for over a decade. And if you're enjoying this story, give it a like, it really helps the channel. We walked to the door, the tension in the house still humming like electricity in the air. The December chill hit my face, crisp and sharp, and I realized how heavy the weight of 12 years of invisibility had been, and how freeing it felt to finally shed it. Linda opened my car door, her hand firm on my shoulder. "You okay?" she asked, eyes steady, unwavering. "I think so," I admitted, letting out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "That was harder than I expected." "You were magnificent," she said. Clear, honest, unbothered. Everything they needed to hear. "They're going to call," I said quietly, more statement than question. "Tonight. Tomorrow. They'll want explanations, apologies, maybe even to make things right." "Maybe," Linda said, a slight smile tugging at her lips. "But you don't owe them a quick fix. You don't owe them anything. You've spent 12 years trying to be seen. If they want a relationship now, they have to earn it. Not the other way around." I nodded, the cold December air filling my lungs with clarity. "What if they can't?" Then her voice was firm, without hesitation. "Then you'll be fine. You have a beautiful home, a brilliant career, financial security, and people who genuinely appreciate you. You don't need parents who only notice you once your net worth is undeniable." Her words hit like a hammer. She was right. Every accolade, every award, every late night spent managing my projects and investments, none of it had depended on their recognition. My accomplishments existed independently. I drove home to Oakmont Drive, my Victorian standing proudly against the night sky, its wraparound porch glowing in the lamplight. Every detail reflected choices I had made, a life I had built with my own hands. The restored hardwood floors gleamed, the chef's kitchen radiated precision and taste, and the library, wall-to-wall with architecture tomes and design magazines, felt like a shrine to my discipline and vision. I let myself walk through each room slowly, seeing it as they never had. Each choice was deliberate, each achievement, silent but monumental. I had designed a life worth celebrating, not for them, not for applause, but because it was mine. My phone rang. "Mom." I let it go to voicemail. Dad called next. Voicemail again. A text from Vanessa blinked on the screen. "You always have to be the center of attention." I set the phone down. I didn't need their validation. I never had. And yet, standing in my home, letting the silence of my accomplishments wash over me, there was a strange satisfaction, a quiet, unassailable triumph. 12 years of being overlooked, ignored, minimized had all culminated in this. I didn't have to explain myself anymore. For the first time, clarity replaced frustration. I had financial independence, professional recognition, award-winning projects, and a life I had meticulously crafted. The only thing left was for them to come to terms with it, and that was entirely their choice. Later that evening, as I locked the front door, a sense of completion settled over me. My achievements had spoken louder than any words I could have forced upon them. The calls, the texts, the attempted reconciliations, they were background noise. I had already won, long before anyone else noticed. Linda's words echoed in my mind. "You don't owe them anything." And I believed it, because I had built a life of substance, a life of autonomy, a life that demanded respect whether anyone chose to give it or not. The night stretched quietly, the snow beginning to dust the edges of the Oakmont Drive lawns. My Victorian stood as a monument to years of diligence, strategy, and perseverance. And in that serene snowy silence, I allowed myself the full weight of what I had accomplished, without them, despite them, and entirely on my own terms. I sat in my library, sipping a glass of wine, and for the first time in 12 years, I smiled with no need for approval. The house, the career, the investments, the awards, they weren't just assets. They were vindication. Proof that my life mattered, that my work mattered, and that my choices had been worth every ounce of effort. Outside, the December night deepened. Inside, I let the quiet pride of victory fill the room. I had claimed my space, my worth, and my story. The family that ignored me could choose how to respond, but it no longer mattered. I had already triumphed. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Comment below if you've ever been underestimated by your own family. How did you respond? And if this story inspired you, give it a like, it really helps the channel.